One of the most anticipated preseason football games that we can remember. It was perfect timing for Shedeur Sanders to get the start, despite being listed as a team full-string quarterback.
Let's dust this off. Let's dust this off, man. Let's dust this off, man. Let's go.
I'm just thankful that I was able to see the day of light and get out there and be able to play. So, they didn't have to let me play. Anything and everything, is good for me.
On Friday, Shedeur Sanders got the opportunity of a lifetime when he started the Cleveland Browns' first preseason game of the season against the Carolina Panthers. And going into it, there was more hype surrounding this game than any preseason game in NFL history. All because fans were desperate to see Shedeur play, and this is one of the most unique situations we've ever seen in NFL history. When else in NFL history have you seen a player that was supposed to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, slide all the way to the 5th round, and then enter a 4-way quarterback competition to be the first string quarterback of a team who has a history of terrible quarterback play? I mean, I think this is practically the equivalent of Love Island for football fans, primarily because we just know this is a dumpster fire and maybe there's a chance that Shedeur Sanders could potentially save it, but there's so many other variables at play. Maybe this is a situation that gets mismanaged. Maybe Deshaun Watson returns in a year and is actually an adequate quarterback. Okay, maybe not that. However, due to the injuries to Dylan Gabriel and Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders had a very unique opportunity here when Kevin Stefanski came out and said this.
We got game Friday night coming up. We'll rest some starters. Some players will play. Obviously holding out some guys due to injury. Then we'll play Shedeur at quarterback.
This game was Shedeur's one opportunity to show not only the football world, but his own coaching staff as well, that he is much better than a 4th string quarterback, and he deserves a real shot in the NFL. While it's safe to say that Shedeur made the most of that opportunity and showed everybody who slept on him just how wrong they are. So real quick before we get to the video, we're giving away copies of Madden 26 to a subscriber that turns on their notifications on this channel. We're doing the same giveaway for any Instagram followers that turns on their notifications on that page as well. And now that we got all that out of the way, let's get to today's video. So Shedeur Sanders made his preseason debut against the Carolina Panthers on Friday, and boy did he ball out. In 2.5 quarters against what was mostly the Panthers starting defense, which by the way is very significant because the entire training camp Shedeur Sanders has been balling out, but he's been primarily balling out against 2nd and 3rd teams and didn't get an opportunity to get snaps against the 1st team. So this is our very first opportunity to see Shedeur Sanders play against a 1st team defense. And in this game, Sanders completed 14 of his 23 pass attempts for 138 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Now, I want to be abundantly clear, I have been very fair when it's come to my analysis of Shedeur. Some people think that I'm consistently flip-flopping between praising him and criticizing him. No, this is just me giving you my full evaluation of him as a prospect. Do I think he did a horrible job with pre-draft interviews? Well, given what we've seen so far with interview clips like this.
If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the coach, don't give me. You should know history repeats itself over and over and over, and I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick him.
And it may have caused him to slide in the NFL draft. At the same time, I have been clear with saying that he is a kid that possesses tremendous talent and was one of the best quarterback prospects in the entire NFL draft. So when I say that his performance in the preseason wasn't elite by any means, this isn't me just trying to hate on the guy. This is just me being completely unbiased, but it was more than enough of a performance to shut the haters up. I mean, he even called out Tony Grossi, a Cleveland Browns radio host who has notoriously hated on Shedeur after the game on Friday.
I be hoping you got something positive to say about me. You always say negative stuff about me. And I'm like, I ain't do nothing to you. I ain't see nothing positive that you ever say.
Now, like I said, this wasn't an elite performance on paper, but the real reason that his performance is being praised as much as it is because of the tape. The numbers are good, but they don't show the whole story. If you watched the game, you know just how electric Shedeur Sanders was while he was on the field. And if you didn't, well, that's what I'm here to show you. While I was watching the game, I made note of a few key moments and plays that I wanted to go over to show just how really good he was on Friday and just how much potential he has in this league in general. So for those of you guys that are wondering why it took me so long, it's primarily because I'm currently in Florence, and I really apologize for the production while I'm traveling. I promise you, if I ever take a trip like this again, I will bring a ring light. My editors have been begging me. I'm finally going to take their advice. My apologies. But the first thing I want to point out from this game is his first drive. Cleveland went 3 and out on this drive, with both of Shedeur Sanders' first passes being quick and on the first read, which didn't give me much hope that he could sit back and read the field to find an open man at the next level, which is something something that he struggled with in college as well. The thing is though, Jackson Dart, the quarterback who's drafted in the first round that most fans thought should not have been drafted over Shedeur, was also guilty of plays like this in his first game. However, after these first two plays, Shedeur really impressed me. On the Browns' next drive, Shedeur and the Browns offense found themselves in a 3rd and 9 situation at midfield, looking to extend the drive to at least get into field goal range. They lined up in a 5-wide formation, showing their faith in Shedeur to be able to make a play without a tight end or a running back as an extra blocker on 3rd and long. Carolina would line up with 2 high safeties, the cornerbacks giving the receivers some room, and 5 players on the line of scrimmage, which screams, we're sending 5 at you and forcing you to make a quick read, which is exactly what happened. The ball is snapped, and 4 of those Carolina defenders immediately start attacking the quarterback, with the nose tackle actually stunting and wrapping around the 2 blitzers to his left, looking to find a hole in the C gap with the right tackle being occupied by the right side edge rusher. Very impressively, Shedeur reads that almost immediately and starts to roll out to his right before the tackle even crosses the line of scrimmage. Sanders knows he's faster than him, so being able to get out there before the rush comes was huge and created a lane for him past the first down markers, extending the drive and putting his team in field goal range, showing that he not only can read a blitz properly, but he can also extend with his legs when needed at the next level. The next play I'm going to go over is one that really shows off how accurate of a passer Shedeur Sanders is, something that I've been praising him for even before he slipped in the NFL draft, and something that I have been emphasizing even as recently as my last video on him a few days ago. On the first play of the second quarter, Cleveland finds themselves within the 10-yard line, looking for their first score of the game after failing to put up any points in the first quarter. In a 2nd and goal situation, it makes sense that Cleveland would attempt to run the ball to give themselves an easier 3rd down and potentially break it open and score on said run play. So they come out lined up in a 12 personnel single back formation with the 2 outside receivers playing sort of outside of the slot as opposed to being lined up out wide, which is a huge sign that this is going to be a run play because they can provide extra blocks and create holes towards the sideline. Carolina looks like they're ready for the run as well, considering the 8 defenders that they stacked in the box. However, Kevin Stefanski decided that running a play action play would catch the Carolina defenders off guard, which isn't exactly what happened. Once the ball is snapped, Shedeur fakes a handoff to the right, but the improved Carolina defense was all over it, and by the time that Shedeur set his feet in the backfield, every single receiving option was locked up. Well, almost. From the wide angle, we see Shedeur load up to throw a pass towards the end zone, which seemed to be heading towards Deontay Johnson, but Johnson was blanketed, so that didn't make any sense. Once the camera pans, however, we see wide receiver Caden Davis making his way to the left sideline in between 3 Browns defenders. Shedeur somehow saw a window in between those defenders and placed it perfectly in between all of them for his first ever NFL touchdown, and what is one of the most impressive throws I've ever seen from him at any level. Now, the next play wasn't flashy, but man, it really impressed me and showed some massive improvements over the problems he had at Colorado. In another 3rd and 9 situation, this time backed into his own end zone, Shedeur needed to make a play, not only to extend the drive, but to prevent a bad situation for his punter and his special teams unit. The ball gets snapped, and Shedeur just waits patiently in the pocket. At the same time, 2 Panthers have beaten their man on the line of scrimmage, and they're about to hit Shedeur. So what does Shedeur do? He ignores them, gets the ball out, and throws a laser to Gage Larvadain, who hadn't even created separation on his dig route by the time the ball was out of Shedeur's hand. Seeing Shedeur completely null and void pressure like that was arguably his main issue in college, and on that play, he looked like a seasoned pro with the way that he handled that. Last year, Shedeur Sanders would have tried to escape the pocket and make a big play instead of being smart, getting the ball out, or even just throwing it away, but he didn't do that here. He made the right play, and despite the touchdown throw you just saw being a bit flashier and a much better showcase of his accuracy, I'd argue that this play right here was the most important play of the game for Shedeur. If he can make plays under pressure like this with consistency, then he's going to make a lot of teams look stupid for passing up on him in April. I mean, the first overall pick, Cam Ward, made a similar play to this for his first ever NFL completion the following day, but the main difference between this play and the one that Shedeur made is that Shedeur had defenders in his face ready to take him to the ground. Cam Ward was behind an offensive line that gave him a ton of time to sit in the pocket, go over his reads, and deliver a laser to a wide open Calvin Ridley in the middle of the field. And that's not a knock on Ward at all. Both quarterbacks showed poise on these plays, with Shedeur still having to deal with offensive line problems just like he did at Colorado. There's a reason that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders were both projected to be top picks before the draft, and Shedeur showcased that in front of a national audience. The last play we're going to look at is a showcase of both great decision making and accuracy from Shedeur, but it's also a play that shows some elite poise in the pocket, which is the perfect combination. Cleveland lines up here inside the red zone on first down with Shedeur in the shotgun and trips on the strong side of the field. The inside receiver is going to motion over to the weak side, showing Shedeur that this is zone coverage from Carolina, because the Sam linebacker that would have been manned up on Larvidane didn't follow him over or call out a switch to the outside corner. Instead, his eyes stayed locked on Shedeur, which gave the young quarterback all the information he needed pre-snap. Once the ball is snapped, we see that Carolina actually sent one of their linebackers as an extra rusher, and because the left guard decided to double team the nose tackle for some reason, he came in free. However, running back Amani Marshall was placed in pass protection and picked up the blitz like a champ. Shedeur saw the extra rusher, but knew that Marshall was there to pick up his blind side, so he put his faith in his running back and took a little sidestep to the right to create himself a brand new pocket. Then just a split second later, Shedeur finds Caden Davis yet again in the end zone, this time on a dig that put him right in between the high safeties in their cover 2. Shedeur got the ball out quickly, knowing that there was pressure coming from his blind side, and threw a dime into the soft spot of the defense for his second touchdown of the game, and the second touchdown of his NFL career. Shedeur came out with a chip on his shoulder and arguably showed more flashes of brilliance than any of the other quarterbacks taken ahead of him, with the exception of maybe Jackson Dart. This is just even more proof that Shedeur Sanders is not only a quarterback who's worthy of a roster spot in Cleveland, but I genuinely believe that he should and could end up starting games for the Browns before the 2025 season wraps up.
Calm under pressure, in the pocket, going through progressions, making the right throws. That's what we expected to see.
People in the NFL are starting to take notice of Shedeur Sanders' performance as well. According to NFL insider Jordan Schultz, he received a text during the game from an AFC North executive that said, and I quote, "It's early, but wow, actually shocked at how good he looks." At this point, even rival teams are seeing how good Shedeur is, and how absurd it is that Cleveland named him their 4th string quarterback following training camp. It's all up to Cleveland to give Shedeur the credit he deserves now, but knowing them, they're somehow going to screw this up. Shedeur was asked after the game whether or not he thought he did enough to move up the depth chart, and this is what he said in response.
I honestly don't know, and I don't really care. Whenever it's my turn, and I just gotta take advantage of it.
That's a professional answer from Shedeur, but what that answer tells me is that even if he doesn't have confidence in his team to make the right decision at QB, if it were up to me, I'd start Flacco until Shedeur is ready to take on regular season football, and then I'd give him the keys. But I can just feel that Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel are going to start games over him, despite Shedeur proving in both training camp and in his first NFL game that he's better than they are. Regardless, we finally saw Shedeur Sanders play an NFL game, and it did not disappoint. He exceeded all expectations, and I'm excited to see what direction Cleveland goes in now. Let me know in the comment section down below, are you impressed with Shedeur's first performance, or do you think it's just NFL preseason and we shouldn't put any stock into it? Aside from that, I don't know if you guys heard, but Arch Manning completely threw the 2026 NFL draft upside of its head. I made a separate video on that. I'm going to leave it in the end screen. I'm going to meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.